there to then work for myself as Motium. I am also a director of a marketing agency called Flinkfiz. But Motium is my consultancy business where I work with people such as Mercedes-Benz, Vauxhall, Peugeot, Citroën Group, and also Volkswagen commercial vehicles recently. I've also got some of my own clients as well within the Stoke area, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. So that's me basically in a nutshell and why I'm sort of here with you today. One of the key elements of that experience is, in my whole life working in the automotive sector, is starting with my role within QuickFit. People always came to me with a problem that I needed to go out and solve, and it was never generally a dealership that worked very well. It was always a dealership that was having trouble, and a lot of those troubles were actually to do with people issues. And my L&D background actually helped me out significantly with that. Okay, so enough about me and more around you guys. So first of all, I wanted to share this slide with you, and this is why my background was sort of a little bit important. From starting from a farming background, I actually never went on holiday until I was at the age of 21. I never left the farm other than going to school really and sort of small day trips. But when I sort of got into the Volkswagen network, I started to experience training. And then when I went into QuickFit, the sign that they got up in the office was this. So this is a guy called Peter Drucker. He was born in Austria, and then he went to work in America as a business consultant. And basically the sign when you walked in within the QuickFit training center was, if you think training is expensive, try ignorance. And when I first saw that, when I went for the interview there, I thought, what does that actually mean? Well, actually it means that training is important, and education of people is really, really important. Richard Branson also said, train people well enough so that they can, sorry, I'll say it again, train people well enough so that they can leave, and treat them well enough so they don't want to. And I'm a big believer in that, is giving people access to training so that they can actually improve themselves, and to see somebody improve themselves and then benefit from it is a big thing for me. Okay, so you thought could get away with checking your emails while I'm on the session and doing other pieces of work. Well, here we go. So this is where you start getting engaged with me. So I'd like to ask a question first of all. So Lauren, if you wouldn't mind popping up the polls for me, please. So I've got a couple of questions. If you wouldn't mind just giving your input, please. So the first question hopefully will be coming up shortly. So Lauren, could you pop that up? There we go. So what's important to you? It's multiple choice. You can answer as many times as you want. I can actually see the answers, so I can see whether you're answering the questions or not. And then what we'll do is we'll share the results. I'll give you a couple of seconds just to read the questions. Okay, please, if the questions don't correlate to what you need, just pick something that you believe is interesting, because we can talk about it then as well. So what's important to you? Is it cutting staff overheads? Is it making sure remote team delivers, improving team morale, restructuring your team, changing skills in your business, or securing new or rare skills? So we've got one vote in already. So we've got securing new skills or rare skills. Okay. Anybody else going to vote? So we've got another vote in. So improving team morale. Okay, I agree with that. That's really important. What else have we got? So we've got a few more people to vote yet. We've only got 2 at the minute. Okay. Changing the skills in the business. Okay, cool. Excellent. I think we've got most people in now. So Lauren, if you wouldn't mind just sharing the results with everybody for me, please, that would be brilliant. So you guys will be able to see the results in a second when we do this, so you can actually see what everybody's put. Okay. So we've got the highest one, and the whole there is improving team morale. And I agree, training is a big part of that. Obviously, the environment that the management team create as well is a big part of that also. But improving team morale and training can actually form a big part of that. And actually getting the company message across as well can also be done. Okay, so Maxine's actually said that it won't let me press or submit. Okay, Maxine, if you wouldn't mind just popping a quick type in the chat which one you'd like to do, where you put your vote in, please, that'd be brilliant. Sorry, fastest finger first and all that. Sorry about that, Maxine. Okay, but the second one on there, so we get Maxine, retaining staff. Perfect, thanks, Maxine. So retaining staff is important as well, and we're going to talk about that as well. Okay, a little bit later on in the presentation. The next one there is changing skills in my business. Any business that's innovative and moving forward and successful, basically training is a big part of that, and helping people to deal with change as well is really important. And then making sure remote team delivers. I get that, particularly in the climate that we're in at the moment. Excuse me for looking away. Okay, we've then got a second question. Sorry, I didn't realise both the polls are going up at the same time. Sorry, that's me. So on the second question, when you recruit, do you, okay, and the highest one there, as you can see, is recruit due to changes within the business. The changing environment at the minute, the working environment is changing massively, and some of that is to do with the situation that we're in with COVID-19, but also a lot of it is to do with the fact that technology has moved on so quickly. So as I mentioned, webinars, I've been doing webinars since about 2011, 2012. I had to basically create the webinar and deal with the bandwidth of the time. If you think about what we're doing today, I have literally switched on, got the presentation ready, don't have to worry about the bandwidth, and here I am, I'm plugging and playing. So technology has moved us on so quickly. Another answer there is we don't recruit and we have a stable workforce. That's brilliant. Having a stable workforce is a credit to the business because of the fact that it means that obviously people are happy and maybe not looking around, but also it means you've probably got the right environment as well. And to maintain that environment, it may be that you're considering improving your training technique, or you've already got a really good training program in place anyway, and get some feedback on that later on. So thanks for taking part in the polls, guys. We'll close the polls down. If they don't close down, you can just click on the X on the screen, and that will remove them from the screen so you can see the presentation. So if there's any issues with that, just let us know in the chat. That'll be great. Okay, so any presentation wouldn't be worth watching unless we'd actually got some stats. Okay, so I'm going to give you some stats now. So what I'm going to look at basically is just some stats based around training, first of all, obviously. That's the aim of the game in the presentation. And I'd like you to just pop in the chat. If you've got any feedback, I'd like you to just pop in the chat whether you believe that these statistics are right. So I've actually got these statistics from something called the HR review. And basically what it's saying there is the best professions for offering employees the opportunity to learn new skills or invest time in training, research and development are, okay, and you can see down there, finance 88%. Now I know I've got somebody from engineering on the webinar today. It may be that you guys actually do apply a lot of, because engineering is quite technical. It may be that you guys do invest in training, whether you agree or disagree with this. HR and recruitment, 82% of HR recruitment workplaces actually invest in training. And you can see that it goes down lawyers, accountants, creative and design, emergency services, IT, etc. And then down at the bottom, we've got marketing, PR, administration, and operations. So we've got quite, 58% there for marketing and PR agencies. That's not very high, really, for the businesses. And this is the difference between growing and moving and staying ahead with the times or not. And that's one of the reasons why I was brought into PlinkFit, was the fact that my wife, who's the MD, knew that there was a need to improve the training and the way that training was taking place within the business. One of the challenges we were having is we were investing a significant amount in training, but then the issue was then people then applying the training when they got back in the business. And Fiona wasn't 100% sure what the issue was. So that was one of the reasons why I joined the business, to help with my background to try and get that to work, which hopefully I've done. And I'll talk a little bit around that in a little while. But yeah, it's really interesting. So you can spend a lot of money on training, but actually when people apply it, going back to the workplaces, how do you get them to apply it? And we'll talk about that. Okay, I'd like some input. So Rachel put in there, it'd be interesting to know the size of the companies polled. Would the percentages for the SMEs be lower? Okay, that's a really interesting question, Rachel. I don't know the answer to the question, to be honest. I could look at it and get back to you, but I mean, just throwing this out to the group, do you think that SMEs do invest the right amount of money in training? You can see there, because one of the top reasons on the next slide there is 52% say lack of budget. Now, we're not a large agency within PlinkFit. We only employ 12 people, but we spent £25,000 on training last year. And that was because of GDPR. So we spent the best part of £15,000 on training courses for GDPR for the year before now. I'm stuck in the days rolling into one that we're in at the minute. So, I mean, I'll throw that out to you guys at the minute. So what do you believe? Do you believe that SMEs, in your experiences, do you believe that there are training budgets out there? Or is it because SMEs have got a lack of budget? What do you think? I'd be interested to know that. If you wouldn't mind just popping something in the chat, that would be brilliant. And you can see there 28% of staff development not being a business priority. And again, is that a priority for SMEs? Is training, and is it the fact that in a small business it's really difficult to give people the time to do that learning? Just be interesting. I'm just going to just sort of stay on this slide for a second, just to give you time, just to give me some input in the chat box, if you wouldn't mind, please. That's a really good question there, Rachel. So can anybody else give me your opinion on that at all, please? If you don't worry, I'm not after that. But it's really interesting because it actually links to the next slide. So Mike, it very much depends on the culture of the business. If there's a will to do it, they will find a budget. Mike, couldn't agree more. Stuart, a lot of SMEs don't realise the funding available for training and apprenticeships. Stuart, very good question. That's the reason why we got Lisa on the training today as well. There is funding out there available. Apprenticeships, I will admit, I was in apprenticeships a few years ago, and now with the way that the Trailblazer funded, etc., for apprenticeships, I'm not 100% up to speed with that. However, what I do is I've got two good friends of mine that actually specialise in helping businesses to get the best out of their apprenticeship levy. So it is possibly something that I can help with that, or the Skills Hub as well. I've got funding for that via Lisa. And one of the challenges that I know that Lisa has, that we've spoken about, is actually encouraging SMEs to actually use that budget to actually send their people on training and then claim the finance that's available through the Skills Hub. Rachel, I think SMEs do have training budgets, and I also believe that the government will be throwing money at training. I agree. I think that said, it's could be hijacked by stalwarts of the box ticket. We're going to talk about box ticking exercises, and training is an experience that people should have the opportunity to take. I'm dealing with a company now where training is actually something that is forced on you and expected rather than delivered as an experience. So changing the culture in a business is quite hard like that. And then the Trailblazer expense, yeah, exactly. But again, it's a challenge for some businesses, and there are people out there, like I say, that I've got contacts with, or we can put people in touch with, that actually specialise in getting the best out of that. So I appreciate that. Thanks for your input, guys. Brilliant. So I'm going to put another slide on, and this is from LinkedIn, from some a study that they actually did. So it basically says there, soft skills will reign supreme in 2020. Now it's really, really interesting that the results from this. So leadership and management is 57% of where the skills are going to evolve 2020 and beyond. Now, through the work that I do in the automotive sector, 90% of my time is spent training managers how to lead and how to manage people in the most effective way. But you know, believe it or not, 50% of managers, when they're actually promoted into a management position, they're normally really, really good at doing what they actually do. So they may be good engineers, they may be good technicians, they may be good marketeers, they may be good IT software developers, whatever it is. They get promoted because they're good at what they do. And they demonstrate skills of being a manager or a leader, but they don't get the skills prior to doing the management or leadership role. And that's 50% of people in my experience, and that's also from a study which I've got the stat from here, which is an online review, which is 50% of people in leadership management don't get the support they need. Creative problem solving, again, things like Lean and Kaizen, etc., can help with things like that. And also communication, really, really important. Talking to people in the right way, having those discussions that need to be had, and being honest and truthful and transparent. Again, a good point from Rachel there. A good salesman rarely makes good sales directors. So exactly right. But people do get promoted because they're good at the jobs. But why should they fail then when they move into management? Because we haven't prepared them properly. So that's another thing to consider. Some more stats for you now from the same report there from LinkedIn, the report for 2020. When asked, talent developers globally said that their top challenges this year are going to be, and the first one up there, 49%, is getting managers to make learning a priority. And this comes back to Stuart's point earlier about it being a priority in the business. And I think Mike also said this as well. it is important that businesses recognise that training is important for the business, because it is detrimental to the way that the business performs moving forward. And it actually does hit the bottom line, as we'll look in a little while. And we need to create a culture where learning is actually acceptable, but also when somebody goes on a training course, they come back and share their new knowledge. And that's one of the things that I've helped with within Plinkfizz, is that training isn't expected. Training is something that people go away, they do, and then they share what they've learned, which then helps other people to do new things. But also it brings that engagement between the levels within the team. I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm just going to pick some key points out here. And then teaching their employees to use technology more effectively. Wow, what have we done in the last few weeks? We were already cloud-based, so we were already using Teams and everything was already online. So all moving people away from the business, we've still got remote workers now, but that happened within a day. So we were already set up for it. But a lot of businesses, I've got a friend of mine that he employs 300 people. He had to get an IT company in, and he moved over 3 days to make everybody remote. And it is about that engaging more with online technology and bringing it in. The 21% there, you've got demonstrating value for learning. That's one of the key bits where I work with customers. I'm going to show you a case study at the end, just to sort of demonstrate how important it is to demonstrate the value of what that investment is in that training, that learning package, and where the outputs can then be measured to guarantee that you've had benefits from that training. Okay, I've got another stat for you now. So 49% of learners who said that they don't have time to say they don't have time to learn at work. Some people say to me about, how do you learn all the stuff that you know? Well, actually, a lot of my time during the working days actually spent doing the role that I do. I do invest a lot of time outside of work, either through YouTube, which, believe it or not, is the largest search engine in the world at the moment, and going through websites and online learning. I read very little. I'm not a reading type person, so I actually get a lot of my experiences through going online and searching. So I'm one of the people where my attention span is quite short. So I like to sort of move on, and you have to take that into account when you're developing learning packages as well. 94% of learners who said that their career benefits from making the time to learn. I've just said I make the time to learn, and I'm sure that you guys do, which is why you're on this webinar with me this morning. Is it's taking that time to learn new things. Now, I'm not expecting everybody, as you'll see in another slide, to take everything away and remember it, but it's those small things that change and make that difference. So, unsurprisingly then, still with the survey, 94% of employees say they would stay at the company longer if invested in their learning than their development. And I completely agree. And one of the biggest things with that is training people right at the very early start, apprenticeships and apprentices and above, management skills. And I did a HNC, which is why it's important that you understand my sort of background. I did a HNC, I finished it at 22, 23. I was in a management position at 23. And those skills, I got to use them straight away and crashed and burned many times and learned from experiences. But it's so important that we start teaching people earlier about leadership and management skills and communication skills. Okay, I'd like to look at another twist on this. So people think that training is expensive, as it says there. Rachel's put in there again, be interested to hear your thoughts on, do you think employees leave companies or leave bosses? Very good point, Rachel. Actually, I agree that a lot of the times people do leave a business because of the fact that it could be to do with pay or conditions, etc. But a lot of the time it can be because of their leader and their boss. Now, there's managers and there's leaders. So one of the training courses that I run is to do with about becoming an effective leader. I'm not going to get into that, but managers effectively, no disrespect, tick boxes and manage processes. Leaders inspire and bring people forward and are interested in people's development. And that is one of the biggest differences for me, which is really important. So it's a good point there, Rachel. Okay, so like I said, I just want to spin this on its head. So people turn around to me and say, well, training's really expensive. Well, try recruitment. So there's just a few, I've just got a few stats on the screen. These are readily available online. I have got the source and you can see that. So if you're recruiting a new person, for example, just let me pause it there for a second on that slide for a second. When you recruit somebody, at that point in time, you make a decision that that is the right person for that job at that time. So that person should be perfectly good for actually doing the position for you and actually doing the role. A lot of people go through a business and maybe last 12 or 18 months. Now, one of the key parts of that is an induction. So making sure you've got an adequate induction process is really important. The Chartered Institute for the CIPR, basically, they put out some research 4 or 5 years ago saying that if you didn't induct somebody within the business properly, they've got a life cycle of about 18 months because they don't buy into the business. So recruitment, but then training, supporting that is really important. So we've got a recruitment cost there. So basically, based on average, actually recruiting somebody, paying an agency 20 to 30%, but also if you do it yourself as well, we're currently recruiting ourselves. And on average, taking that into account with recruitment costs or doing a combination of the two, it costs around £3,000. That's a couple of good training courses. A salary for that person on average, around £27,000. So straight away, that's the biggest overhead. Then you've got bonuses on etc. on top of that, which again, this is from a study that I took online. But round about, from government figures, round about £1,600 if you do actually deliver a bonus. National insurance extra, we all have to pay that. Say no more. And then obviously pension on top of that. So actually recruiting a new employee is becoming quite expensive. We've also got any office equipment that they need to do that, and also any other costs on top of that. So for example, HR costs if you're a large business. If you're a smaller one, it's time based on you as a director or an owner, giving that time to that person to help them to then learn and progress, etc., and bed into the business. So total cost, this is just a speculative figure of around £50,000 in the first year to actually return based on employing that person. So you've got to make that money back in net profit to actually pay for that person. That's a lot of money. So based on their training costs, 2 or 3 training courses a year, actually you make significant saving by taking the time out to actually deliver some training. Stuart, I remember, I think Stuart, somebody mentioned that they hadn't, sorry, it wasn't Stuart, that they hadn't lost any staff or didn't have an issue retaining staff. That's brilliant, because it means that all of that money is going on the bottom line and you're not paying money out on recruitment. I have nothing against recruitment companies, by the way. It's more around spending it on the front end rather than the back end. Okay, and that's a process that I go through with Vauxhall as well at the minute, where we're actually encouraging them to invest more money in training to actually help support. Then their dealer network is losing a significant amount of money at the moment through not retaining the staff. Okay, so a slightly different part of the session now. So I want to look at the training experience. So as I mentioned right at the start, you know, I appreciate experiences because where I grew up and the experience I had in my early time in the Volkswagen dealership. There are so many different outlets for learning now. It's so exciting, it's really good, I really love it. I like getting into new technologies. And so the training experience is really important. I'm going to just spend about 15 minutes just talking through this. So I'd like to show a short video clip. While I put the clip on the screen, what I'd like you to do is look at the video clip, and I'd like you to just put one comment about the clip when it's finished for me, please. So whether you think it's fun, exciting, engaging, or if you pick out a key word from the clip. Now, this is an online e-learning company. I don't do any work with them. It's a clip that I picked up online. So, but it's about that experience and how video adds value. So I'm going to put the clip on and leave you to it for a second. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, hopefully the video stopped now because I know there was a little bit of a lag, but if it hasn't, I'll just give you a second. I'd just like you to put one comment or a couple of comments in the chat box basically as to what you picked out from that video. Okay, we'll just talk about it for a second. Ask, understand, execute. Okay, Mike, good. Be specific to your audience, enjoy the journey. Yeah, brilliant, Rachel. Anybody else want to put a comment in there? Be creative, in your face. Yeah, I like that, Stuart. So, Stuart, just elaborate on your comment there. Is it the fact that it's quite impactful and it's quite action and energy-packed sort of video? If you wouldn't mind just elaborating on that a second. I chose that video for a specific reason. I think you've picked up one of the key points with that. Is it because it's energetic? Just answer yes if it is, if it's for that reason, just to save you typing. Well, yeah, that video basically is around, and some of the elements in there about engaging with your learner and about making sure that you've got the right training output for your learner. It is really, yeah, perfect. Thanks, Stuart. Guess that, you've got the message. Perfect. Excellent. Thanks, guys, for your input. It's about creativity, that journey. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so that's the reason why I chose it. One of the things that I do find sometimes in my experience is you get people putting training, and it's sort of, I call it sheep dipping, where people will send everybody on the same training course because they believe that that training is the right person for everybody. But it's not about the training, it's about the person, okay? And you only get the benefit of that investment in that training, providing the learners learn what they can, okay? And what people forget is people, and this is actually quite interesting that I use those words, what people forget is people do forget we're human beings and we all learn in a slightly different way. And people do forget. So if that learning isn't the right learning right at the very start, they won't take away enough of the learning for them to actually learn what they should have done. That all makes sense. So just to put it into perspective, I've got a slide here that you might find interesting. This is called the forgetting curve, believe it or not. So people forget things. So obviously we forget. I forget all sorts of things all of the time. But one of the things is really is if you look there on the left-hand side, it says retention. So that's retention of knowledge, 100% when you're doing the training. So straight away, you guys are retaining round about 100% of the content, providing you're listening to me blabbering on. And then after that, look at that. Within 20 minutes, you forget round about 42% of what you actually learned. Now, the key point of this is when you send somebody in a learning course, you need to have a strategy. When they come back, is how do you understand what they've learned and how do they then apply it? Otherwise, that training that you actually invested in the first place, if they don't implement it within the first week, if you can see there, they will actually lose, they remember 24% of it, so they'll actually lose a significant amount. And one of the things you can implement in your business to do that is actually put in learning reviews or professional discussions, for example. But that doesn't mean they have to have a test when they first come back into work. You don't have to grill them. Just give them have a professional discussion, have a chat the next day and maybe the next, to actually encourage the person to actually use that learning. That's really important. Otherwise, that investment is wasted. Another thing to consider is actually the way that they learn. So people have 3 basic ways of taking in information. I'm going to show you another quick video clip based on that as well. Okay, so I hope that video is finished. So VAK, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. Visual learners, as you can see there, they like to see things. Auditory like to listen, and kinesthetic like doing. So one of the things you need to consider in your training, particularly with online e-learning, is lots of online training forgets the kinesthetic learners, the people that like to do things, which is why I've been asking people today to sort of get involved. Okay, that's exactly there from Rachel's comment in there. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, people will never forget how you made them feel. Exactly. an emotion in a learning session is brilliant. And it's very difficult to achieve that online. Okay, so a consideration needs to be, I actually work with a company, a very large worldwide company that actually decided to put all of their learning online. It lasted 3 years. They basically lost the whole of their network to do with learning. Everybody just basically disconnected from doing learning because they did everything online, and they forgot about the people that were kinesthetic learners and actually needed to do the learning to actually get the best experience. Okay, so thanks for that input, Rachel. And it is important that you consider that whenever you're putting training in place. Another thing is this model as well, which is Honey and Mumford. The L&D people in the room will know this. People have different ways of then using that learning and actually digesting it to then actually make that learning effective and get it embedded in their brains, basically. You've got reflectors who like to think. People that reflect want to generally read or do things online, and they like to do it at a slow pace. Sometimes fast-paced videos and things, they don't like that because they don't trust it. We get the theorists which like to make sense and context of things, actually want to understand it and take that in. They actually like to do activity based on what happens next and what could happen. We then have pragmatists that like to test and apply the ideas, and they like to use it as they go through it. And activists, they like an experience to take in that learning. So all these different ways, or these 4 different ways, so you've got the VAK and then you've got this model here. They need to be considered in any training for it to get the maximum out of that money that you invest. So basically, one size doesn't fit all. The ideal scenario is that there is a combination of different learning elements so that people of different learning styles can actually get the best out of that learning. And that's how you get the maximum out of your learning budget. So there are lots of different ways of doing learning, as we know, as we've talked about. I'll just put a few on the screen here, but I'm just going to read a few out as well. So we've got instructor-led training. This is the stuff that I do. I travel all over the country, all over Europe, and France, Spain, Germany, Sweden, Switzerland. I've done all the different places running training courses. Instructor-led training is brilliant because of the fact that it means that people can get engaged with somebody like myself and actually learn from that experience, but also you can actually tailor it to the individual. So as a trainer, I would tailor the experience to the individual sat in the room, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 10, or 20. Try to make that experience as tailored to that person as possible. So if somebody is struggling and they are a bit more kinesthetic, you can change the dynamic. E-learning is great for knowledge-based information. So if you want people to have knowledge rather than a skill, great way to get that through. We've got simulations and simulation training, which is brilliant. Hands-on training for technical skills, engineering, IT, etc. is brilliant. Coaching and mentoring. I do mentoring for the chamber. I'm a volunteer mentor for the chamber, but also I do some coaching as well. And coaching is a really good way to help young managers in particular to understand where they're going and understand what the goals are, etc. Lectures are really good, group discussions, etc. Role playing. There are also some other things in there as well. New things that are coming out. There's avatars, so it's a bit like Minecraft that the kids play. So there's avatars where you can actually you can be an avatar in a training room or in a virtual environment and do training with people. You can sit in a virtual garden and do virtual conversations. Instructor-led training, like I say. There's also something called e-bites, which is quite common now, and also YouTube, don't forget as well. YouTube is a massive e-learning tool. One of the things to remember with YouTube, though, is don't believe everything you see on YouTube. It can actually be a little bit wrong as well as your possible experience. But YouTube is a massive learning tool. You've seen me using it today. I want to move on and just show another type of online learning, which is called bite-sized learning. So this is something which is short video clips, short online content, matches a Generation Z as well. Generation Z like short bite-sized learning. I'm just going to play this video clip just to give you a sample of e-bites clip. sorry, I cut that clip short. Okay, there was a reason it finishes off just within a second. So that is a short e-bite clip, which is something that I'm doing quite a lot of now, which is basically learning that you can do on your mobile phone over lunchtime or at home, and they literally take a couple of minutes and it delivers a message. So that e-bites clip there is based on the benefits of e-bites. But that's something that I'm doing quite a lot of now, and that actually involved quite a bit with doing small bite-sized chunks. And again, the Generation Z like that, and it's a way of catching up on learning. Now, it's using a combination of these, like I say, that it gives you the maximum to get the maximum out of it. But how do you measure the impact? I'm just going to show a slide now based on a theory which gives you, okay, yeah, every day is a school day, spot on, Rachel. It is. I learn every day. So just want to give you 4 points really about how to measure learning. So when you've got your learning in place, how to measure whether that learning is cost effective. And it isn't just about whether somebody comes away and does something new, okay? So the first thing is, point one, is about reaction. So this is about when the learners are enjoying the training and whether they actually enjoy doing the learning. So this is around what did they think of the training or training. And this is measured, we call them silly sheets, but generally you fill out a questionnaire at the end based on the time there and then, did they do it, okay? So that can give you a gauge on the learning. The second one then is whether they actually learn anything. So this is like an end test or an assessment, etc. Either during the learning or straight after, to see whether people have actually changed from when they first started the learning right at the start to when they get to the very end of the learning, to actually see whether they've taken on new information and whether it's there and it's embedded and ready to use. The next one there is behaviours. So has the behaviour changed? So as it says there, did the learners actually do anything different when they return to the workplace? And this is two connotations. First of all, did the learner change, but also did their line manager or manager encourage, but also give them the opportunity to learn, to use what they've learned when they get back to the workplace? Now, that can be difficult because some managers don't give the person a chance to actually use the learning. And again, that training's lost, the investment in that training is lost. But sometimes what then happens is they blame the learner for not using it. That's not necessarily the learner's issue. It's more around, does the learning environment or does the working environment allow them to use those new skills? And that happens quite a lot. And then the results. So what was the effect of the training in the business? So did it actually demonstrate? So did it mean that that person used that new skill to improve either return on investment, to make them more effective, to make the communication better, to help them work better as a team, to get better results? And that can be measured on your bottom line. So there is actually a fifth one there, which is return on investment, which is, does the investment in that training return what you spent on that training? Now, I can pretty much say, and I'll show you an example in a second, that actually a lot of the, all the training that I put in actually delivers a return on investment, because I make sure that it gets measured and encourage people to do it in the right way. So there's 4 things. You can make notes on those and take them away if you like. Okay, I'd like to just finish up the presentation today with a short case study. This is a local company that I spent some time with around about 2 years ago. I absolutely loved the project, and when I got stuck into it. And it's just really to summarize everything that we've done today based on what an impact it can have. Okay. So the business I was working with a business called Choices Housing. So they're a housing association. You may know them. They're based in Newcastle-under-Lyme. They've got 21 services, as they call it, which these are residential homes that are care homes. They're having a very tough time at the moment with everything that's going on with COVID. But they've got significant 700 nurses, I think it is, care supporters and managers and leaders, etc., within the business. They are incredibly, they invest incredibly in training within the business. They've got their own training manager, their own training department. And they came to me to say, look, we're really, really struggling to make all of this work. We're spending money. We need to bring on more people to help us to do the learning, to do their own assessments, etc. And this was sort of the initial list that they gave me. So training delivery, they wanted to deliver to a wider audience. They were restricted because of IT access. Numbers were increasing in new starters, so their headcount was turning. They were paying for recruitment agencies, etc. They wanted to use less paper, use blended learning, so they wanted to use a combination of face-to-face training, online webinars, etc. They wanted to work more effectively with skills first, and also the QCF, which is their governing body. Improve their e-portfolio, so they've got an online portfolio. Track new recruits, improve engagement, improve retention, etc. So I started off on a journey with them. We also wanted to, they do their own training as well, so they've got their own training department, so they wanted the training and assessors weren't being utilised properly. They were doing a lot of tasks that they didn't need to do. They were completing a lot of monthly reports that took days to complete rather than hours. Certificates took a long time to produce and then send out to the delegates. They wanted it to link with their HR system. They wanted a learning management system, basically, that linked with their HR system and implied, and most importantly, enable compliance for their QC, the Care Quality Commission, which basically means that they have to regularly update and train people on their drugs awareness, etc., because they are giving drugs. And one of the biggest challenges I have with this project was a lot of their carers weren't up to date with technology. They hadn't got PCs, they hadn't got access to laptops. So the first thing that I did was to look at that. So the base setting was how did I get the learning out to the learners? So what I did was I looked for an off-the-shelf e-learning platform. So I came up with, I looked at 3 providers, came up with a provider, and then it actually allowed them to then look at online resources. Training and mentoring could be done online. Online resources were available. They had the ability to take attendance online if they wanted to. They could complete the care certificate online electronically. They could receive submissions online, so basically put it in portfolios. They could provide feedback. They could get notifications when work was uploaded, etc. So they could do all of that, and they got live reporting. So I actually found a system that could do that and help them to implement the system. Okay, so after that, they actually won an award for this project. After I put the project in place, this was some of the feedback that we got. So there were more efficiency achieved through the implementation of the LMS. However, the efficiency of creating monthly reports, etc., stands out the most. A monthly task that took 3 days to do was now done in half a day, reducing time spent by 83%, which was massive. So they got an extra 30 days work. So we measured that and we got that output. So that was a massive saving in time, but also meant that those people could spend more time with the learners actually doing the learning and the training and supporting and coaching and mentoring. It gave people freedom to learn. So basically what I asked their IT department to install Wi-Fi in all of the services so that every person that worked there could put their personal mobile phone online. So they could actually do learning online on their own mobile, which massively helped. But what it also meant was a lot of the carers didn't like coming to face-to-face training because they couldn't find a training facility. So we actually put a map on there to allow it to guide them to where they needed to go. So what it actually meant was face-to-face learning sessions. They were outstanding 594 absences in January to September. And that actually dropped by 64%, which meant that they'd only got 210. That meant the cost of training courses for absences equated to £20,000 where they had to put on new sessions. Now it's dropped down to 12,000 because of the fact that they've got a success rate. So they're saving £8,500 just on more efficiency. Environmental, believe it or not, they saved on paper, plastic wallets, plastic palette, colour ink, etc. That are saving there for environmentals of £985 just by doing that, just by bringing in this management system to help them to manage the learners. They increased staff retention, they saved on recruitment costs, and they also had savings on reducing liabilities as well. One of the biggest things there was if somebody administered drugs that hadn't been trained or did it wrong, there was a massive implication there, obviously legally. We estimated, and this is underestimating, to date, they saved £200,000 through implementing a learning management system that cost them £10,000 to install. That for me was brilliant. It's a brilliant result for them. And every time I see their MD now, he shakes my hand and says, thank you very much. So I love this project because they were a brilliant company to work with, but actually we got a massive result. I said they won an award for this. And this was the final comment. Our learners really engage with the process and taking more responsibility with their own learning. Access to the handouts is really helpful, especially for those particularly, so basically they were accessing the handouts online, and they're really excited to hear the plans of getting policies and procedures on the system, etc. And they're moving the system more. They're actually doing e-learning now as well, which is something really good. That's just a short case study. So that just shows that doing learning in a slightly different way can actually save businesses money in a different way as well. So, just to finish up that, I can see Rachel's got to go, but I'm finishing off anyway. Thank you, Rachel. Thanks for attending. One quick thing, I will be putting a link out from the guide for a training module that you can actually do. So please take that on board and do that. But is there any questions for anybody now? So if you guys got any questions you want to ask me before we just finish off, so please stay on just for another few minutes so I can share this link with you. Not for you, Rachel, obviously, if you need to leave, leave. but you guys that are on there. So is there any questions that you want to put in the chat box that you'd like to ask? Okay, so this is where I sit and wait and hope that people type something. If you don't type anything, don't worry. I won't be offended. Just give you a minute just to type a few things up. I'll just take a sip of water. Okay, so again, just give you a little bit more time. Okay, thank you. So just moving on to the last slide then, basically, before we finish up. So there's a link there. We're going to post it in the chat box shortly. There's a bit.ly link there for a page on my website. Basically, I've arranged for a free sample training course for people to be able to log in. And it's to do with home and remote working. So it's an online package. Doesn't take long to complete. It's about 20 minutes, I think it is. If you want to share it throughout your business with people that are working remotely, please do. If you want to use it as a sample, then do that. Basically, you can put the link out. I was going to open the link up, but basically it brings up a form on my page. The form is only there to act as a way of stopping people randomly going in. So it's there, just fill your name in, put your email address in there. I will not use it for any email marketing or whatever. It's literally just there just to make the site a bit more secure. It's there, like I say, you can share the link out between people that work in your business or with people that you want to share it with. If you don't want to use it at all, I won't be offended. Okay, so hopefully in the session, we've looked at all the objectives that we started off with at the start. And so hopefully you understand a little bit more about engaging your teams, identifying the difference between a webinar and a virtual classroom, and also choosing the right training for your business and maximising your budgets on face-to-face. Like I say, it's all about getting the right training for your learners within the business. So I'd like to say thank you, but also I'd like to bring Lisa back in just to talk about the funding that's available through the Skills Hub, just to finish off, because there is some funding available via the Skills Hub to actually help support businesses with training moving forward. So Lisa, if you want to just have a couple of minutes.
Hi guys, I'm Lisa Cox from the Skills Hub. I know Stuart's on here as well, who's part of the Skills Hub. So we have a bank of training providers throughout the county that we can access, and we can do a skills analysis with individuals and businesses and put you onto those training providers. Hi Stuart. The likes of Income, where Stuart Parker and also Paul and the training that he offers can be supported. And what we can do is we can put you in the direction of anything that might be already funded, like apprenticeships or skill support for the workforce. But where you are looking at bespoke training, and I noted that people are looking for securing new and rare skills, and they mentioned that, where you're looking at that, we can potentially support with 48% of that cost. So if you are engaging with somebody like Paul to do your training and it's bespoke leadership and management, and he's looking at putting a package together for your business, then we can potentially, basing on you being a strategy-based business and being an SME, we could support with 48% of that cost. And the same with some of the courses that Stuart offers. I know that at Income they do offer a lot of apprenticeships, but they also have a lot of standalone short courses where we're able to support with that cost. So if anybody wants any more information, you can contact us at skillshub@staffordshirechambers.co.uk. I'll get that email address sent over to you. Send any inquiries through, and we have a maximum of £5,000 we can support with. So there's some good budgets out there. So if that 52% of you who have got a lack of budget need some help, then the Skills Hub are the ones to help you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lisa. That was really, really interesting. And thanks, Paul. Thank you for your great session. It was great to have the interaction with the attendees as well. So thanks for that. For those of you that would like to watch Paul's session again today, this can be found on our webinar library on our website. I will also put Paul's details, send Paul's details around in Paul's slides if he's happy for me to do that as well. So you've got the details, and also Lisa's details if you want to get involved with the Skills Hub. I'd like to thank everybody that's attended today. Your participation has been great, and it really helps to make our webinars, so thank you. So I'll hopefully see you all soon in the chamber when we're allowed to start letting everybody back in, and I'll hopefully see you all soon on webinars. So thank you everybody, goodbye.
Thanks.
Thanks very much everyone, and don't forget that I'll put the link in the chat as well for the e-learning as well if you want to sample that as well. Okay, thanks guys, thanks very much for attending, see you all soon.